More than 3 years after Amie Harwick was killed, her parents, Tom and Penny, sat through Gareth Persouse's trial, even the most graphic moments. But the Harwicks were not alone. A small army of Amie's friends, including Rudy Torres, were also in the courtroom.
This is the last thing I could ever do for her.
In their opening statements, prosecutors told jurors what they believe happened in the early morning of February 15, 2020.
Dr. Amie Harwick was murdered by defendant Gareth Persouse because he was obsessed with her. He strangled her, lifted her up over the balcony, and dropped her to her death.
I just pray that Amie was unconscious when she went over the balcony.
Nothing could prepare the Harwicks to hear, for the first time ever, Gareth Persouse's explanation about what happened the night Amie died. Defense attorney Evan Franzel claims that running into Amie in January 2020 at an award show had allegedly sent Persouse into a deep, debilitating depression, and the only way out of it was to talk to Amie on Valentine's Day 2020.
What was your reaction to that?
Bull, to put it bluntly. They're making up stories because they have no defense.
The defense tells the jurors they will hear from an accident reconstructionist who will show that Amie fell on her own. Franzel then shows the jury two images, a screenshot of the reconstruction showing an animated figure hanging from the balcony, and an undated photo of Amie posing on top of a balcony railing.
You'll see that she had a certain comfort level with the balcony railing.
Beautiful young lady, wasn't she? She looked glorious.
What was your reaction?
Ridiculous.
I couldn't take it seriously. It was just so far-fetched to me.
She's been strangled, she's debilitated. So for her to then climb over a 3-foot rail, do all that, it doesn't seem reasonable. It seems actually unreasonable.
The defense's opening concludes with this damning admission.
Yes, Gareth Persouse was waiting in her home. He broke into her home. Had he not been there, she wouldn't have died that night. That is not in dispute. He set a chain of actions into motion that led to her death. But the evidence will show that he never intended on killing her.
The prosecution then presented its evidence to prove that Gareth Persouse did intend to kill Amie Harwick. Dozens of witnesses testified for the state, including Amie's roommate Michael Herman, who was in Amie's house the night she was killed. Michael described for the jury how after Gareth Persouse confronted Amie about a month before her murder, Amie had been concerned about French doors that Persouse would later use to break into her home.
Amie had met with a handyman. I remember they were over by the glass doors, and Amie was pointing it out and telling him, we need to secure this.
Prosecutors also played this taped jail conversation between Persouse and his friends after his arrest.
I guess I'm officially a bad boy now, right? I've always been kind of...
Just a couple of weeks after he's been arrested for murder, he's laughing with his friends. You never hear any moment of concern for Amie during that call.
Yeah, so it's not great. I'm not getting out of here.
Why was that important?
I think that's one piece of evidence to show a consciousness of guilt. So he knows what's coming because the evidence shows what he did. It proves what he did.
During the state's closing arguments, it was Amie Harwick herself who had the last word. Prosecutor Mariano read an email Amie wrote to herself hours after the January 2020 encounter with Persouse.
Tonight, I felt very scared. Gareth came up behind me and started screaming.
I'm pretty nervous that I'm more on his radar now. It terrifies me that he's obsessed with me for 9 years, thinks about me every day. He's focused on harming me.
That's the closest we've ever had to a victim testifying in their murder. I thought it was extremely devastating.